A student's overview of the Ageless wisdom was carefully compiled from the following books by Alice A. Bailey. A Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Esoteric Psychology, Volumes 1 and 2. Esoteric Healing. Esoteric Astrology. The Rays and the Initiations. Students are encouraged to download the free PDF version of this overview by following the link in the video's description, or to order a printed copy at cost from thebookpatch.com, but are advised to read the original, unabridged books in order to gain deeper insight into the ageless wisdom. Students are also invited to join our online study group at facebook.com/groups/students of the ageless wisdom. Chapter 36 Esoteric Psychology Volume 2. The Law of Group Progress. Esoteric name, the Law of Elevation. Symbol, the mountain and the goat. Ray energy, progressive energy, seventh ray, factor of evolution. This law begins to function and to be registered in the personal consciousness when the aspirant has achieved certain definite realizations, and knows certain ideals as facts in his experience. The law of group progress can only begin to have a conscious effect in the life of the disciple who has been pledged and accepted. When he has established certain rhythms, when he is working effectively along certain well-recognized group lines, and when he is definitely and in understanding consciousness preparing himself for the expansions of initiation, then this law begins to sway him and he learns to obey it instinctively, intuitively and intellectually. It is through obedience to this law that preparation for initiation is instituted by the disciple. 1. Group unity. This must be achieved through the practice of love, which is part of the practice of the presence of God, through the subordination of the personality life to the group life, and constant, loving, living service. 2. Group meditation. These groups will eventually be grounded in the kingdom of souls, and the work done will be motivated and carried forward from the higher mental levels in the demonstration of the contemplative life. This involves the dual activity of the life of the disciple, wherein he functions consciously both as a personality and as a soul. The life of the personality should be that of intelligent activity, that of the soul is loving contemplation. 3. Group activity. Each group will have some distinguishing characteristic and this will be dedicated to some specific form of service. I have said that these groups constitute an experiment. This experiment is fourfold in nature and a concise statement about it may clarify conjecture. They are an experiment in founding or starting focal points in the human family through which certain energies can flow out into the entire race of men. These energies are 10 in number. 2. They are an experiment in inaugurating certain new techniques in work and in modes of communication. It is to be noted that in these last 3 words is summed up the whole story. These groups are intended to facilitate interrelation or communication as follows. 3. They will be occupied with an endeavor to facilitate communication between individuals so that the rules and methods whereby speech can be transcended may become known and the new way of intercourse be brought about. Eventually communication will be from a. soul to soul, on the higher levels of the mental plane. This involves complete alignment, so that soul, mind-brain are completely at one. B. Mind to mind, on the lower levels of the mental plane. This involves the complete integration of the personality or lower self, so that mind and brain are at one. Students must remember these two distinctive contacts, and bear in mind also that the greater contact need not necessarily include the lesser. Telepathic communication between the different aspects of the human being is entirely possible at varying stages of unfoldment. C. They will work at the establishment of communication between that plane which is the plane of illumination and pure reason, the Buddhic plane, and the plane of illusion which is the astral plane. It should be remembered that our great task is to dispel the world illusion through the pouring in of illumination or of light. When enough groups have been started that have this for their objective, there will then be found upon the physical plane those channels of communication which will act as the mediators between the world of light and the world of illusion. They will be transmitters of that type of energy which will break up the existing Maya or illusion and dissipate the ancient thought forms. They will release the light and peace which will illumine the astral plane and so dispel the illusory nature of its life. End of page 182. D. Through other groups another type of energy must flow, producing another type of interrelation and communication. These groups will bring about the right healing of the personalities of individuals, in all aspects of their nature. The work intended is the intelligent transmission of energy to various parts of the nature, mental, astral and physical, of the human being, through the right circulation and organization of force. Healing must eventually be carried forward by groups which act as the intermediaries between the plane of spiritual energy, either soul energy, intuitional energy, or will energy, and the patient or group of patients. This last point is to be noted. The group idea must always be remembered, for this will distinguish the New Age methods from the past. The work will be group work for the group. The members will work as souls and not as individuals. They will learn to communicate healing energy from the reservoir of living force to the patients. Other groups of communicators will act as transmitters of two aspects of divine energy, knowledge and wisdom. These must be thought of in terms of energy. Their work will concern itself with the education of the masses, as a direct intermediary between the higher mind and the lower mind, and with the building of the Antakarana, and their task is that of linking the 3 points of interest upon the mental plane, the higher mind, the soul, and the lower mind, so that there is established a group Antakarana between the kingdom of souls and the world of men. Political work will occupy other groups more specifically than does any other branch of work. These groups communicate the quality of imposition and an authority that is lacking in many other branches of this divine group activity. The work is largely first-ray work. It embodies the method whereby the divine will works out in the consciousness of races and nations. Members of this group will have much first-ray in their constitution. Their work is to act as channels of communication between the department of the Manu and the race of men. It is a noble thing to be channels of the will of God. Some groups will be, in a pronounced sense, channels between the activity of the second ray, that of the world teacher. At the present time, the Christ holds this office, and the world of men. The energy of the second ray must pour through such groups of students and believers and allied groups of thinkers and workers, and there will be many of these. This fact is to be noted. There will be many such groups. The platform of the New World religion will be built by them. A few groups will have an interesting function, but one which will not materialize for a long while, or not until the work of the building forces of the universe are better understood. This will be coincident with the development of etheric vision. These groups will act as channels of communication or intermediaries between the energies which constitute the forces which construct the forms, the fabricators of the outer garment of God, and human spirits. The possibility is, therefore, to be noted that the main initial work will be concerned with the problem of reincarnation. That problem deals with the taking of an outer garment or form under the law of rebirth. Therefore, when these groups are organized, it will be with that subject that the members will at first work. They will make a deeper and different study than has heretofore been undertaken on the law of rebirth. Some groups of energy communicators and transmitters will carry illumination between groups of thinkers. They are illuminators of group thoughts. They transmit energy from one thought center to another. They transmit, above everything else, the energy of ideas. That is their major function. The world of ideas is a world of dynamic force centers. This should not be forgotten. These ideas have to be contacted and noted. Their energy has to be assimilated and transmitted, and this is the function of those force centers which will express themselves along these lines of activity. Groups working in another category will have for their specific work the stimulating of the minds of men so that alignment can take place. They act primarily as channels of communication between the soul of man and the soul in any form. They will be the great psychometrical workers, for a psychometrist is one whose soul is sensitive to the soul in other forms of life, human and non-human. They evoke the soul of the past, primarily, linking it with the present, and finding it also indicative of the future. Members of other groups will be communicators between the third aspect of deity as it expresses itself through the creative process and the world of human thought. They will link or blend life and form creatively. Today, unknowingly and without any true understanding, they bring about a concretization of the energy of desire, which, in its turn, brings about the concretization of money. End of page 183. This, consequently, necessitates the materialization of things. They have a most difficult task, and that is why it is only during the past 150 years that the science of world finance has made its appearance. They will deal with the divine aspect of money. They will regard money as the means whereby divine purpose can be carried forward. They will handle money as the agency through which the building forces of the universe can carry forward the work needed, and, herein lies the clue, those building forces will be increasingly occupied with the building of the subjective temple of the Lord rather than with the materializing of that which meets man's desire. This distinction merits consideration. 4. They are the externalization of an inner existing condition. It must be realized that these groups are not a cause but an effect. That they may themselves have an initiatory effect as they work upon the physical plane is no doubt true, but they themselves are the product of inner activity and of subjective aggregations of force which must perforce become objective. The work of the group members is to keep, as a group, in close rapport with the inner groups, which form nevertheless, one large, active group. This central group force will then pour through the groups insofar as the group members, as a group, keep en rapport with the inner sources of power. Never lose sight of the group objective, whatever that objective may be. Cultivate a dual capacity to apply the laws of the soul to the individual life, and the laws of the group to the group life. Use all forces which may flow into the group in service, and learn, therefore, to register that force and use it correctly. Other factors to keep in mind are: 1. Each group has its inner counterpart. 2. This inner counterpart is a complete whole. The outer result is only partial. 3. These inner groups, forming one group, are each of them expressive of, or governed by certain laws, embodying the controlling factors in group work. A law is only an expression or manifestation of force, applied under the power of thought by a thinker or group of thinkers. 4. These inner groups, embodying differing types of force, and working synthetically to express certain laws, are an effort to bring in new and different conditions, and hence produce a new civilization. This is the new age that the Aquarian age will see consummated. 5. The outer groups are a tentative and experimental effort to see how far humanity is ready for such an endeavor. They are also an experiment which has for its objective the manifestation of certain types of energy which will produce cohesion, or an at-one-ment, upon Earth. The present distraught condition in the world, the international impasse, the religious dissatisfaction, the economic and social upheaval of the past few decades, are all the result of energies that are so potent owing to their immense momentum, that they can only be brought into rhythmic activity by the imposition of stronger and more definitely directed energies. When the groups are functioning adequately and have achieved, not only an internal group unity, but also harmony between the groups themselves, then some peculiar and esoteric work can be done. Such are some of the plans which the hierarchy are attempting to carry forward and in which all true disciples and aspirants can have a part. They are brought to our attention in order to evoke our lasting cooperation. End of page 184. This great and spiritual grouping of servers is, on the physical plane, only very loosely linked. On the astral plane the linking is stronger and is based upon love of humanity. On the mental plane the major linking takes place, from the angle of the three worlds as a whole. It will be apparent, therefore, that certain developments must have taken place in the individual before he can consciously become a functioning member of the new group of world servers, which is the principal group at this time definitely working under the law of group progress. A. He must have the heart center awakened, and be so outgoing in his behavior that the heart is rapidly linked up with the heart centers of at least 8 other people. Groups of 9 awakened aspirants can then be occultly absorbed in the heart center of the planetary logos. Through it, his life can flow and the group members can contribute their quota of energy to the life influences circulating throughout his body. The above piece of information is only of interest to those who are spiritually awakened, and will mean little or nothing to those who are asleep. B. The head center must also be in process of awakening, and the ability to hold the mind steady in the light must be somewhat developed. C. Some forms of creative activity must likewise be found and the server must be active along some humanitarian, artistic, literary, philosophic or scientific lines. All this involves personality integration and alignment, and that magnetic, attractive appeal which is distinctive of all disciples in some form or another. In this way, from the standpoint of esotericism, certain great triangles of energy will be found in the individual and consequently increasingly in humanity. Then too the forces of creative life will circulate from the point within the head center, along the line to the heart, and then, with the throat center, form a triangle of fiery light. Such is the way of group progress, and when this is being consummated, then the law of group progress begins definitely to function and to control. It might be of interest, if we here listed the recognized effects of the 5 laws with which we have been dealing. Law effect, physical effect, reaction, quality. 1. Sacrifice, world saviors, deliberate death, love for the savior, selflessness. 2. Magnetic impulse, world religion, churches, love of ideas, idealism. 3. Service, humanitarianism, organizations, love of humanity, compassion. 4. Repulse, fight versus evil, all crusades, love of good, discrimination. 5. Group progress, new groups, NGWS, love of synthesis, inclusiveness. The law of expansive response. The other 5 laws have worked out into a definite activity upon the physical plane. The effect or consequences of the impulses behind them produce the working out of the purpose of the Most High, and can be recognized upon the plane of phenomena. They can all be so recognized, but at this time, the conscious awareness of humanity is such that only in 5 instances can the effect of these laws be noted, and then only by the most advanced of the world aspirants. The law of the lower 4. We stand today on the verge of great things. Humanity is on its way with renewed impetus. It stands no longer at the crossroads, but irrevocable decisions have been made, and the race is moving forward along a path which will lead it eventually into light and peace. It will find its way into the peace which passeth understanding, because it will be a peace which is independent of outer conditions and which is not based upon what present humanity defines as peace. The peace which lies ahead of the race is the peace of serenity and of joy, a serenity based upon spiritual understanding, and a serenity is not an astral condition but a soul reaction. These qualities are not achieved as the result of disciplining the emotional nature, but demonstrate as a natural, automatic realignment. These 2 qualities of the soul, serenity and joy, are the indications that the soul, the ego, the one who stands alone, is controlling or dominating the personality, circumstance, and all environing conditions of life in the 3 worlds. End of page 185. End of chapter 36.